Hey guys, a very warm welcome to all of you in our new video on meta-analysis series. In this video, we will talk about reproducibility. If someone else also tries to perform the similar action which you have taken, should get similar result which you have got through your meta-analysis. Reproducibility is important in context of meta-analysis for a researcher also and for others also because it actually does two things. So the first thing is it actually give you a representation of the state of the field you are working in, whether it is an exhaustive representation or not. If it is reproducible, others are getting the similar result using your method, then it is an exhaustive representation of the field. That means you have covered well the current trends of the field and you understand what you are doing. Another thing for which reproducibility is important is it checks for the quality of the individual studies you have taken. So it's a quality check also. Since someone is going to do the reproducibility work on your methods, that means he's actually going to study the individual studies which you have taken, which is again a quality check because he will be able to also check that you have used the individual studies which are of good quality and good standard and of good journals. It is a combination of systematic literature review which you use for your meta-analysis and get basically checked again. So exhaustive representation also happens in this case. Plus, it is a peer review also because it's a quality check and you only use peer reviewed good articles. This is also important from other perspective of research ethics because this creates transparency also. In addition to this, it can help other collaborators also who are actually going to use your ideas or who are working on the similar field because they understand that it's an exhaustive representation, good quality check, so it can help them. Let's also discuss where exactly reproducibility depends on. So we are discussing actually what are the ways in which you can calculate reproducibility. So one is search strategy. How exactly you are using Google and other databases. This is search strategy. Second one is your inclusion criteria. Which papers you are actually taking, which papers you are not taking, that sort of thing. And third one is your data gathering process. I'll just explain each of them in detail. For your search strategy, this search strategy we can actually split into information. Where does the information coming from? So information sources, we can say basically the databases, Science Web or Science Direct, Web of Science. And another one is your keyword use. What keywords you are actually using in order to find out the journals or the papers you are looking for. So strategy depends on. And then it depends also on the method of gathering missing information. Missing information gathering. Now, what is missing information? So sometimes what happens, you are reading an article and you find some missing and you mail the authors for that information. That is the method you use. Sometimes you also call the researchers for getting that information. Graphics or probably the data. This is not always essential, but sometimes people do use it. Then comes the inclusion criteria, and this could be into longitudinal study or it could be studies done in past 5 years time period and a longitudinal study. And let's come back to data gathering process. This can be your screening part, and screening involves reading abstracts. So you screen to the abstract of selected article and then you decide whether you have to read it or not. So this is also method which comes up in the systematic literature review part of the study. Reproducibility depends on these three factors decide how much reproducible your paper would be. And you have to disclose all these three strategies. I'll add one more and we'll proceed further. So now you understand what actually affects reproducibility. I'll explain two more things in this video and then we'll see in the other video. First one is PRISMA Framework. This is actually used to show exactly what strategy you have been using to find out the articles. I'll show you how it looks like. Another thing which explaining to you how exactly the common things you find in the study. So suppose you got the medium level research question, how you exactly arrive at medium level from the high level research question. Suppose you have already arrived at it and now you want to perform a meta-analysis for this type of question. So what exactly you have to look into studies? These are some factors which could help you out in finding out the relevant studies and getting a reproducible meta-analysis or something which is important from the perspective of research. One thing is consistent dependent variable. So if your studies are using a consistent dependent variable, then you can collect those studies together and then find the evidence for research gap. This is important. Yeah, there could be independent variables which are not similar, but then your dependent variable should be similar or focus on homogeneous populations. If the study is actually looking towards the same population in the emerging countries, if they are actually targeting similar type of population, then it is more relevant. Another thing you can focus on is a methodology part. So if the studies are using similar methodology, you can club them up to find your empirical research gap. You can also use one more factor, which is same variables for inclusion and exclusion. All studies are including similar variables for their inclusion and exclusion. Then also you can bunch them up and perform your meta-analysis. These are some factors which can help you up in creating your reproducible meta-analysis, which is important from the significant point of view of research. Now let's me show you how exactly a PRISMA framework looks like once you complete this study. Let me take you to my desktop and let's see for the PRISMA framework, right? PRISMA framework. So this will actually depict how graphically we have used the strategy which we just discussed. I'll open this one. It says record identify through a searching. So let's talk about the first stage where you are using your Google search and finding out the relevant article through your keywords. You are going to make this search on different databases. After getting those relevant articles, it says in the second stage they remove the duplicates article which were not important, and then they record the article. They screen through them. That means they use the abstract and then decided whether they are relevant to the study. And then they excluded some of them. Then they decided full text articles for eligibility. We were talking about the eligibility criteria of the articles you need to see. What exactly make them eligible? When they are actually recording records identified at this stage, they might have restricted to some time period or relevancy short also. Some full text articles were also excluded, and then they say studies were qualitative synthesizes. This was basically a meta systematic review, basically part of meta analysis, which was done on quality. And then they actually quantify them as qualitative and quantitative. And when they say talk about quantitative, that comes to meta analysis part, otherwise qualitative. That is what was done. I also want to show you one more thing. In order to do this kind of meta-analysis, you have a lot of data once you go through that. Some papers you will reject, some paper you will accept. And it is very important to keep the record of it. There is a MetaLab and they made this specific spreadsheet so that you can keep the record of the data. So it says unique ID, then it talks about title, author years, title screen, title abstract read or not. So in this way, you can keep a track of the record of what exactly you are doing. Then if they are not relevant, you won't fill this. But if they are relevant, you will fill this, right? Notes on quantitative. And another thing was there are more factors to this. So it talks about define research question, inclusion criteria, how exactly you have to use this sheet also. It explains the instruction part. So search protocols are there. What exactly you are going to do. Then the Prisma is also. They have mentioned what exactly you need to do. The similar figure which we have seen, you can keep a record of that also. How many authors you contacted. So we talked through the gap gathering, right? There was a gap in the data. You need to contact the author. That was an example for that. That is also it keeping say records. So whatever you do while doing your study, you keep a record of all those things. And for that, this basically the Excel sheet is being provided by MetaLab decision making. So what I'll do, I'll put a link to this data sheet in the description box, and you can download it and then you can refer to it when you start your meta-analysis part. Yeah, so I think that is all the information I wanted to give you in this video. I'll see you in the next one, and then we will move further into meta-analysis and see how exactly other things in the meta-analysis research are done. All right, thank you. Take care.